My dad was a journalist. I wanted to tell stories from listening to him and mum tell me about some of the stories they'd worked on. It was almost a perfect time going to Stirling studying journalism. I am a producer at Create Anything. My main job is to come up with ideas, develop them to hopefully one day on your TV screen, probably more likely your mobile phone or your laptop. So sometimes it goes from working with a broadcaster, whether it's BBC, and more recently also working with some of the streamers who are international, Netflix, Amazon, HBO. So in my current job, I really enjoy the fact that the boundaries are kind of endless. It's really about believing in ideas, wherever you get your inspiration from. When I was at Stirling, I spent probably a quarter of my time actually out of class, working with mentors, working on set. So I think being able to merge those two worlds together, of theoretical and practical, is the best of both worlds. I think if I was to give any advice to my younger self, it's don't be afraid to fail. I'm Donald. I'm a television producer and a graduate of the University of Stirling.